Hello everyone. I hope that you are all safe and well, especially after the events this weekend. I'm struggling to come to terms with this violence, and I guess I've always been very confused by acts of violence. I can only hope that our efforts here through education and advancement and enlightenment can help to build a better and safer community for all of us, and not just the few. My plan today was to explain the impact of cultural dominance on the institutions of art, but as I wake up this morning, I can see the impacts and the after effects of the most extreme form of cultural domination through racism, terrorism, and oppression painted all across the news this weekend. We should all be enraged at the brutality of a uniformed police officer who has sworn to uphold and protect the law. We should all be horrified and mortified at the loss of life over a $20 bill. This is often a very difficult topic to deal with, and that's why we've avoided dealing with it throughout the history of this country. But until we engage in these difficult conversations about racism, it will continue to fester and boil like an untreated wound, like a broken leg with a Band-Aid on it. When you study the complete history of America, you will see many examples of this repeated again and again. And history does repeat itself. It's all there for us to see in black and white. But the first step towards understanding is understanding history in its complete form, not just from one perspective or one textbook. And understanding that history and the news are written by people who are human beings, complete with flaws like all human beings. And one of them is intrinsic bias, subconscious bias, which is very dangerous. Think about the writings of Nazi scientists as they so-called studied Jewish and African people, and how their study was formed by their misinformed beliefs about race. And think about how that science came here to the United States and how it came to influence medicine and science in this country through the Tuskegee experiment, and later filtered into our medical textbooks, and even still today. Information should always be taken with a grain of salt and looked at with a critical eye for just this reason. And this is also why we use more than one source. By definition, cultural domination, or formerly referred to as cultural imperialism, is the imposition of one culture, usually politically or economically dominant, onto a community, onto another community, of various aspects of its own culture, replacing those of the other culture. It is a form of imperialism because the imposing community forcefully extends its authority and its way of life over other people, and then transforms or replaces aspects of the other culture. Think about instances where you see another culture or way of life being erased, and along with that, its art. As a lover of science fiction, one of my favorite expressions of this is in Star Trek, which actually came out in the 1960s. And it doesn't look very subversive or, different to us today, but the role of Lieutenant Uhuru as a black woman serving in a command role on the ship was a big deal, a huge, huge deal. And that's actually why the prime directive of Star Trek was to not interfere in other cultures. Why is this bad? Why is cultural domination bad? We have the answer this weekend. This explosion of violent behavior is the result of one culture that is being oppressed. And this is the most extreme case through violence. But subconscious bias is a part of where this starts, and it's extremely dangerous. This causes the loss of thousands of lives in America every year, the senseless loss of life. But subconscious bias can be removed through education. It's really important to learn about people who don't look like you, people who think differently from you, and to begin to have these academic dialogues, these conversations across borders, these conversations across colors, and these conversations across these separations that really don't exist. We invent them and make them up. When we truly engage in this type of academic dialogue, we share information, we make new discoveries, we grow, we build, we get better, we get stronger together, united. We're better than we are apart. We can do so much better. These colonialistic, imperialistic attitudes only separate us. This is a very difficult topic, even more so after this weekend. And I want to recognize that and share some support. I myself am experiencing this, and it's very difficult. So if you are feeling unrest, struggling to deal with this emotionally, being hit hard, please reach out. I'm here for all of you. You can contact me at any time. I'm only an email away, and I'm more than happy to connect you with some of the many support services that we have, and I'll share some of those in this email. And sometimes those things come to light as you're looking through this content, so I do want to be aware of that. I also want to make sure that I don't neglect this week's content. The information I'm sharing with you is a look ahead into the future, into the project on cultural domination in art, looking at how it has impacted institutions of art in art history, in museums, in magazines. How does that influence art? But that is not due until June 15th. So you have time. I want you to look ahead, and I want you to be successful. This week, week 9, we're diving into material on the medieval times. And after the reading and viewing material, you will have a check for understanding, which you can actually take twice to improve your score if you miss anything. And there's also a discussion this week which shares content both on the medieval times and looking back to the previous module on the traditional arts of Asia. So you'll see a group of questions, and you can choose depending on what you're curious about or interested in, and to give us some variety of topics. And also, as you're reflecting on the content for cultural domination, you can also think about instances of what I like to call cultural heroes, people who are preserving or maybe even bringing back artifacts, cultural knowledge, language, food even. One of my favorite examples is the recent translation of the Star Wars movie into the Dene language, which is the language of the Navajo people, but in their own tongue it's Dene. And there is a new resurgence of the language in teaching, in written form, and in bringing back a language which was almost lost right here in America. So there's many interesting cases of people today who are fighting to preserve their culture, or who are, or through history. I had a student before who wrote a topic on this topic on the Monuments Men, and he researched how much of the movie was fact or fiction, and how those people were trying to save the artwork that was being stolen during World War II. So it's a lot to think about, and looking forward, and definitely please let me know if you need any help, and connect with some of these support services if you need. And I hope that you're all safe and well, and I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing here through all of this difficult time. It really gives me hope that we can build a better future. That's why we're all here. That's why you're all here, getting an education and trying to be the best that you can be. So I want to thank you for that, and I hope that you all stay safe and well.